Hello and welcome to another video review brought to you by yours truly, Thorazine. Today we're going to be taking a look at another Mortal Kombat figure by the way of Reptile from the Mortal Kombat 9 line by Jazewares. This is a 3 3/4 inch, excuse me, a 4-inch figure. I keep wanting to call them 3 3/4 inch, but they are marketed as 4-inch figures. But as you can see, they do scale nicely with other 3 3/4 inch figures. Especially once you take into account the height for the stand there, you can see that they're pretty much the same size and not going to stand out terribly for any kind of size difference. As you can see, I'm compared to his classic version. Quite a different aesthetic to this figure. Not quite the same generic ninja that the original Reptile was. I do like the direction that the Mortal Kombat people went with trying to develop each of these ninjas into their own personality. Although I do have to admit, I do have a certain nostalgic attachment to the original design. One thing that's kind of cool about the Mortal Kombat 9 figures, they do tend to come with at least one accessory for each figure. Reptile here, it came with an alternate head, so you can have either a masked or unmasked Reptile. Both not too shabby. Quite a bit of molded detail in these figures. You can see through the lines that are supposed to be as scales, lots of texturing through the shin guards as well as on the arm guards there. Paint applications nowhere near as sloppy as his classic counterpart. The lines do seem to be pretty well defined. My only real qualm with this figure is that again they do use a slightly rubbery plastic. But it doesn't seem to be as bad on this figure as it does on his classic counterpart. It is a bit more stiff and seems a bit more durable. The paint applications are actually pretty nice on this figure. They do have a slightly matte finish, but nowhere near as distracting as on some of the other Mortal Kombat figures from Jazewares. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the articulation on this guy. The feet, as you can see, are hinged, which allow for bending of the foot at the ankle. There's also a swivel point there at the ankle which allows for 360-degree rotation. The knee is single hinged, allowing for 90 degrees of motion there, as well as 360-degree rotation at the knee. The hip is ball jointed, which allows for actually a little less than 90 degrees of lateral motion on this figure. About 90 degrees of forward motion there, and you can rotate the leg around like so. The waist has no articulation mid-torso. There is that typical rocking point there which allows you to move the upper body forward and backwards as well as turn it from side to side. You do get a full 360-degree rotation there mid-torso. Hand is attached with the typical peg and hole assembly which allows for 360-degree rotation at the wrist. The elbow is single hinged, which allows for a little less than 90 degrees of motion there, as well as 360-degree rotation at the elbow. The shoulder has the typical ball hinge, which allows for a little over 90 degrees of lateral motion, as well as 360 degrees of rotation for the arm. The head is attached with a ball joint, however you're not going to get much, if any, motion out of the head other than the typical turning fashion. I have a feeling this has to do with the way the neck is kind of molded into the head mold for the shroud, and to hide some of the extension on the neck for the popping off and popping back on of the other head. Like I said, you do get 360 degrees of rotation there at the neck. Nothing as far as being able to tip it up and down or side to side. That being said, I am extremely happy with this figure. I don't really have too many complaints other than the slightly rubbery plastic, which I can live with. Like I said, I am a collector who typically puts his figures on a shelf and leaves them there unless I need to get them out for a comparison shot for a review or something. So I don't get a lot of playwear on my figures. The overall paint quality on this figure is not too bad and shouldn't be much of a problem compared to some of the other figures as far as flaking and just general paint degradation. Final verdict on this figure, I like it and I would recommend it as long as you have an attachment to the character or the Mortal Kombat franchise in general. Compared to other modern figures like Marvel Universe or G.I. Joe, I don't know if they're going to quite live up to the standards of those toys, but it's a strong figure on its own and not a bad attempt by Jazewares. Definitely one of the better figures that I've reviewed by them so far. That being said, thank you for watching. This has been another video review brought to you by yours truly, Thorazine. And tune in again when we'll be talking about some more toys.